Hello, everyone. Now, welcome back. Now, today we're going to dive into a fundamental concept in biostatistics, and this is types of data. So we will be focusing on types of data here. Now, understanding the data type is incredibly important because the way we collect, organize, and analyze data depends on what kind of data we're working with. As an example, if we don't categorize data correctly, we might use the wrong statistical method, which can lead to misleading conclusions. But don't you worry, I'll explain everything in a way that makes sense. And we'll go through plenty of examples. So by the end of this lesson, you should know exactly how to classify data and understand why it matters in research and particularly in healthcare. All right, now let's get started. Now, first, let's talk about two major categories of data: qualitative data and quantitative data. Now, everything we study in biostatistics falls into one of these two groups, so it's really crucial to understand what they mean. Qualitative data is descriptive and tells us about characteristics that can't be measured with numbers. So instead, it involves labels or names or categories. And then quantitative data is numbered, meaning it represents measurements or counts. This type of data can be used for mathematical calculations like averages or percentages, as you could probably assume. Okay, to understand this, let's imagine you're conducting a survey on patient experiences in a hospital. If you ask patients to describe their experience using words like satisfied or unsatisfied, that is qualitative data because it's descriptive. You're asking patients to describe something. But if you ask them to rate their experience on a scale of 1 to 10, that's quantitative data because it uses numbers that can be analyzed mathematically. And again, quantitative data includes numbers. And what we're talking about is numbers if you rate something from 1 to 10. However, qualitative data are more self-reflective about their experiences. Okay, so now we know the two types of data, but let's break them down even further. So data is categorized into 4 levels of measurement. That is 4 levels named nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Now, these levels help us to understand how much we can do with the data in terms of analysis and calculations. Now, think of these levels like a staircase. Each step up the staircase adds more information and allows us to do more complex analyses. Now, let's go through this one by one. The nominal scale is the most basic. It simply just labels things without really any particular order. A great example is perhaps blood type. If we record a patient's blood type as A, B, AB, or O, we're simply labeling them. As you can see, there's no ranking. Blood type A isn't higher or lower than blood type O. Some other examples might include eye color, gender, or types of diseases. These are just categories with no inherent ranking. Now we have ordinal data. This is similar to nominal data, but here the order actually matters. A great example is a pain scale, where 10 means severe pain and 1 means mild pain. However, the difference between 4 and 5 may not be the same as difference between 7 and 8. This is ordinal data. Now, the interval scale has equal spacing between values, but there is no true zero. So as an example, temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit doesn't mean no temperature exists. It's just another value on the scale. And now the ratio scale is like the interval scale, but with a true zero, whereas interval data doesn't have a true zero. So with the ratio scale, it does have a true zero, which means none of that quantity exists. A good example is weight. So if there's 0 kilograms, that means no weight at all. Similarly, heart rate can be measured on a ratio scale because 0 beats per minute means there is no heartbeat, which obviously means that person is probably not alive. So why does all this matter? It matters because the type of data you're working with really determines the kind of analyses you can perform. Now, as an example, you can't take an average of nominal data like blood types, and you can't calculate meaningful differences with ordinal data like pain levels, but you can take an average of interval and ratio data like temperature or height. So now choosing the right statistical test, as you can see, really depends entirely on understanding what type of data that you have. Now let's quickly recap what you've learned. So in this video, we've covered the differences between qualitative and quantitative data. the 4 levels of measurement, which are nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. And we also covered why understanding these types is so important for making the right conclusions in research. So the next time you look at data, you'll know exactly what type it is and also how to analyze it. Okay, great job. We'll see you in the next lesson.